Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of From the Nosebleeds. We are creeping closer and closer to this game against the Giants. And this game against the Giants coming up on Sunday has more questions than it did at the beginning of the season. You know, you're looking at what the schedule looks like in the offseason. You're counting out the wins and the losses, and that has been thrown completely out of the window. It definitely was for me after beating a team like the Bengals. And then because, you know, Joe Burrow was out, you beat the Eagles, another really good team, and you've already lost to the Colts. So that's been flipped on its head. And it might get flipped even more with a game like this against the Giants, who are a frisky, fun team. They've got a lot of talent, especially with their rookie tandem in Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. And there's a lot of questions going into this game. We've talked about injuries, and we've talked about the trap game element. And, you know, the Broncos almost fell into a trap game last week with the Jets. And now you're looking at another team that plays at MetLife, and it may be very similar because this is not one of those teams that can just be looked at as scrubs. Am I right, Trent?
Yeah, 100%. This Giant team is good. They're playing with swagger. They have a fire lit under them with Jackson Dart as the center instead of Russell Wilson. And the trap game thing, I mean, the Broncos really tried to downplay it last week, but this team does not have a good enough offense to avoid any trap game because they will get caught in the mud in every single game that they play against anybody. I mean, minus the Bengals, I guess, because the Bengals were that bad until we got Joe Flacco in the Unk Bowl last night.
Last night, what a game.
But yeah, this Broncos offense is not good enough to withstand the trap games and win these games by 2 touchdowns or whatnot. You know, they're a 7-point favorite last I checked. And I could easily see the Giants covering that just because this Broncos offense still has not shown us that they can put together 4 quarters of football.
And they are a good team on paper. You know, this is the same conversation I had with Richie Carney when he was on the show earlier this week. They are a good team on paper. You look at what they have: Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, the rookie, Bo Nix, of course, leading the team. You have a great backfield now in RJ Harvey and, of course, J.K. Dobbins, who's looked like a man unleashed. He's a new guy on this team. And then, of course, you have Evan Ingram, who's found his stride later in the weeks. So they have a good offense, but what they are is inconsistent. They can't keep drives going. They can't keep their play style going. Once it all goes through that first quarter, you know, once they have their rhythm found for a quarter, it goes out the window. And a lot of that is because of the way Sean Payton runs his offense. You know, he will not change. He will not change his offense no matter what. And the only time he does seemingly change his offense is when they've got a somewhat large enough lead, something that feels comfortable enough, even if it isn't, and they'll take the foot off the gas. So that's one thing that we've gotten used to at least this season. And the Broncos cannot do that at all this week because this Giants team is the exact type of team that you take the foot off the gas, they're going to come and attack right away. They're going to attack as hard as they can. They're looking for a win here. Of course, they're 2-4. But 2 of their wins have come from Jackson Dart against some good teams in the Chargers and the Eagles. And their only loss with Jackson Dart as the starter is the Saints. So if we're getting a little bit of a pattern recognition here, he beats the good teams and loses to the really, really, really bad ones. So do the Broncos just need to play like a bad team this week? Is that what they need to do? Because that seems like the kind of pattern that Jackson Dart has got himself into earlier in the season. But the number one thing that people have been talking about all season, basically, and the big question mark is Dre Greenlaw. Will he come back this week? Is he healthy enough? And it seems like he might be healthy enough to finally take some snaps, but not healthy enough to play a full football game. You know, he was training yesterday, training the day before, out of practice, but limited. He wasn't a full participant, and that may not be good news for the Broncos. You know, of course, it's not good news that he's not here, but we're not going to be able to see him this week. And luckily, the Broncos have been able to play without him, but I'm not expecting anything here.
Yeah, you know, Vance Joseph said yesterday that he could play in a part-time role is how he phrased it, you know, limited Wednesday, limited Thursday. We talked about Malcolm Roach's return from IR last week, where he was limited Wednesday, full Thursday, full Friday, cleared the way for him to have what I thought was a solid return to action against the Jets.
Yeah.
But for Greenlaw, limited again, and like we talked about, you can't rush this one back whatsoever. You cannot afford to, especially with the soft tissue injury, you have to let it be 110% before he takes the field. And I don't really think that you need him this week. Like, it's not like, oh my goodness, the Broncos are going to lose this game if Dre Greenlaw doesn't play. Like, they have Cam Scatterbo, who will be a force in between the tackles. But outside of that, I mean, Alex Singleton, Justin Strnad will be just fine. I truly think that. So if Dre Greenlaw is
you have better expectations than I do.
Yeah, that's fair. Against the Giants, I do. You know, I just don't think and Scatterbo's a good weapon, but he's still a young rookie, and Singleton's played a lot of football. So I do think that kind of veteran edge he has over Scatterbo will help him out, but I don't think that they need him for this game. I do think it'll be interesting if they end up playing him like 10 or so snaps, because then you're just like hurting the rhythm, and then he's in maybe on a third down here and there while the other guys are playing the early downs. So I don't totally know how Joseph is going to go about that, but he said it won't change much schematically in terms of whether or not Greenlaw returns, but he also wasn't going to commit. Joseph wasn't. He said, we're not sure if that's going to happen this week or next. So still up in the air. We'll see how practice goes today, but for Broncos fans looking to see 57 out on the field, it looks like if you're going to see him at all, it's going to be for maybe 15 snaps on Sunday.
Yeah, and if there's one person on this coaching staff that I really do trust, it's VJ. I mean, the defense that he has built here has been better than outstanding. It's incredible to see what they... I mean, again, how many times do you have to say it? They held the Jets to -10 passing yards. So that can just be a little, look at what the defense can look like on their best day against a really bad team without somebody like Dre Greenlaw. But with a team that, again, is as frisky as the Giants, Dre Greenlaw might be a bigger loss than it seems. And again, not luckily, I guess, because we're talking about an injury for the Giants, but they're without one of their biggest playmakers too in Malik Neighbors. So he's not there. One of the better receivers in the league. People have been talking about him as a top 5 receiver in the league, and he looks to be that. So he's not going to be there. They've got a little bit of slack. Again, this Giants team is 2-4, but the way that they've been playing does not look like 2-4. And their best unit, arguably, is that front 4 on their defense. Very, very tough. Those 4 guys, I mean, incredible. I mean, you got Kayvon Thibodeau, you got Sexy Dexy. These guys are nuts. The left guard position for the Broncos has been a topic of conversation too. We're talking about injuries. Pert's out. Now Pajeski's stepping in. There might be some issues there. I mean, this offensive line has been good so far, but you're going up against one of the best defensive fronts in the entire league on Sunday. In the entire league, their defense is just that good. I don't know how they're going to be able to fare with that defensive 4.
Yeah, and you got the Big P stepping in at left guard, and he's been good this season. When he comes in at that 6 offensive lineman and the Empower Field crowd goes crazy, it's been fun. This guy's a tackle, and I don't think people understand how hard it is for tackles to go play guard, for centers to play guard, for guards to play tackle. When it looks like, just blocking people, whatever. Whole way that you have to process each snap changes when you go from tackle to guard. Your steps change, your stance change. Hey, am I now pulling instead of sliding down to replace the guard on the backside? What's my pass protection? Am I now turning right? Am I turning left? Do I have a one-on-one on the backside? Am I doubling with the center? Your whole thought process changes when you go inside to guard. And especially, he's not getting an easy assignment with Dexter Lawrence inside. No. I'm really expecting the Giants to try and create mismatches with him inside, because I think that will be a huge key to success. I think Dexter Lawrence can blow up the run game. He can make Bo Nix uncomfortable in that pocket and prevent him from stepping up. So I think that Pachevsky's going to be the X factor for this game for Denver's offense. Straight up.
He'll have to be.
He'll have to be. And if he's not good and they can't run the ball as well, and Nick's, instead of being able to step up, has to kind of spin out of his pockets out back and extend. We could see another lackadaisical 13, 16, 17-point performance from this offense. And then on the flip side, if he's great, he slides in at guard, it's a seamless transition, and it looks like it's Ben Powers out there. I think that the offense can put up 30. I think that that's a long it's not very realistic in my eyes, but it can happen. But this is a bigger injury issue than many people are making it out to be, because a left guard on this offense is so important.
Yeah. The casual football fan, when they hear an injury to an offensive lineman, they just turn their head and they're like, okay, well, on to the next game. That's not how it works. These guys are the most, and maybe it's just the linemen from high school coming out in me, but these guys are the most important players on a football field. Every single time we talk about a lineman, I'll be able to, I come out and say that because what they do goes so unnoticed, and it's so important, especially the switches between the left and the right tackle, the left and the right guard, the differences there, what the left tackle is, how important of a position that is. You could talk about the 4 most important positions on a football field, and I'll put the left tackle in that. And the left guard is right up there, because you're protecting the Broncos. You're protecting Bo Nix's blind side, because he's turning. He's not seeing that. So they'll have to be playing at the highest level. He'll have to be the X factor. Poljeski was. So hopefully he can go out there and it'll be a seamless transition. But if it's not, then we're in for a rough day for Bo Nix. But another fun, and I'm going to say it's fun because it's been kind of taking over my timeline on Twitter. It's been kind of a battle between the Broncos and the Giants before the game has even started on social media, all because of a quote that Jonathan Cooper had about Jackson Dart, basically saying that he is a confident quarterback and we're looking forward to a matchup and we know how to stop quarterbacks who play like Jackson Dart. And New York Giants fans are pissed. What's going on here? They are really upset about a simple interview from Jonathan Cooper.
Yeah, and Cooper, he was talking about Jackson Dart, and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was cool. It was something along the lines of, he's got a swagger, he
wears these chains. Yeah.
He's doing all the fun stuff. And I was like, look, it seemed like Cooper was just talking about a young quarterback who's winning in this tough football league. And he's like, hey, look, this kid's got swagger. But then Cooper was like, I think the message of it was Cooper was talking about, hey, Jackson Dart feeds off of energy. He builds confidence early. We saw in that Eagles game, first 2 drives were touchdown drives, then a punt, then another touchdown going into half. And, you would have thought it was Aaron Rodgers going up against that Eagles defense. He was playing with so much confidence. It was fun to watch, for me at least. But I just think Cooper's message was, hey, we can't let him build confidence. And even in part of his quote, he said, we have to stop him from getting his ego going, which I thought was a great quote he said. So I think that it got taken out of context a little bit by that good old Dove Climate account that loves to stir things up on Twitter. But I think it was Cooper saying, hey, this is a guy who's very confident. He's fiery. He's charismatic. We can't let that happen if we want to win this game. We need to sack him. We need to force 3 and outs. We can't let them build momentum early, or it's going to put us in a bad situation going forward. So I thought it came from a spot of respect for Jackson Dart. Like, hey, this kid got confidence.
Yeah, it seemed like that.
Awesome. And he was like, this is confident. He's confident, and this is what we have to do to stop it. And now we have a Twitter war.
Yeah. And then, of course, who gets a hold of that video? All the New York Giants fans who seem to be the most prideful in the world. Any New York City fan is going to be prideful of their team. And they are as upset as I've ever seen. Like, it is insane, the reactions that this has gotten. And of course, one tweet doesn't stop at one tweet. This went back and forth. Nick Bonito decided to chime in, and he kept it very straightforward in a simple tweet saying, quote, I've never seen such a delusional fan base. Like, as simple as you can be, just let them know that they are acting delusional. And it got out. I believe Kayvon Thibodeau responded to his tweet with a GIF. I believe it was Kayvon Thibodeau, one of these guys. But they were just going back and forth, and it's turned into a complete atomic bomb before the game even starts. It's so funny how one interview can completely change the dynamic of a game, because now you've got all these New York Giants fans treating this game as a much bigger game than it originally was expected to be. And sure, before the season start, this looked like one of the biggest games on the schedule because of a guy named Russell Wilson, but he's not playing. But somehow they still found a way to have some drama into this game. And before we get into our next segment, which will be reacting to a poll we put up on Monday, how upset are you that we aren't going to be able to see Russell Wilson? Because I know I'm so sad that for his second year in a row, he won't be playing in the Mile High City. It's so sad.
I can't even picture what this Broncos pass rush would do to Russell Wilson. It would not be pretty, but it's funny. You like talk about delusional fan base. And I remember in July when Giants fans in training camp were like, oh man, Russell Wilson's back. Like, Giants are going to revive him. And all the Broncos and Steelers fans were like, hey, like, I remember when we said this, like, just give it a few months. And it took 3 games for him to get benched. So
just completely the fan base quit on him. Everybody quit on him.
That was the more delusional thing in my eyes, was them thinking that Russell Wilson was going to change for that organization, which he clearly didn't. Yeah. So he will still find a way to get booed. If this Broncos pass rush gets after Jackson Dart and you see his helmet get ripped off for a player, or something were to happen and Russell Wilson would come in, which he's come in. He had to come in last week when Dart was in the blue tent for concussion. Brian Dable, instead of calling plays, is in the blue tent screaming at his medical staff. Russell Wilson's on the field at MetLife getting booed as he goes 3 and out. I mean, that was crazy. So
he only played 2 plays at home, and both of them were incompletions, and he got booed relentlessly.
Oh, it was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So I'm saying, if something along those lines happens again, I mean, that stadium might break the decibel record.
Yeah, that stadium might just collapse. Like it might fall apart. People will be rushing the field. It'll be insane. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like when he just steps on the field for warmups. Like when he comes out of that locker room, it's going to almost break the decibel record anyways. It's going to be so much. I wish I was there this weekend. Definitely going to be a great game, but now's a good time to pivot towards our next topic, which is our poll that we release every Monday. We react to on Friday. And I love this question that we put up on Monday. And here it is. Which win tells the true story about the Broncos this season? So you can see we got 1,051 votes. 33% of people thought it was the Jets that told the true story about the Broncos, and 66.6% of people thought it was the Eagles win that told the true story. And this is a fun question because, of course, both of these are wins, but they don't both feel like wins. The one against the Eagles was, of course, an underdog victory where the Broncos came back and flipped the switch in the fourth quarter and beat one of the best teams in the NFL, a team that was still undefeated at that point. And then you jump forward to next week where they're taking on the Jets and they're barely winning a game by a field goal. They're looking terrible out there. They're giving up safeties. They can't get a drive going against an 0-5 team. So from beating an undefeated team to almost losing to a team that has yet to win a game, they tell two very different stories. And clearly people are looking at this with a little bit of a orange tinted glasses view. You know what I mean? They are very adamant that the Eagles win tells a true story about the Broncos, not the Jets. Trent, where would you vote on this poll?
I would vote the Jets. I mean, and even the Eagles win, I thought, showed some parallels. It's not like they were lights out for 4 quarters. They were lights out for 1 quarter. And I think that the Jets game really tells the story of, hey, this is an elite defense. This is the best defense in the league. This defense can flip games. This defense can compete with the best in the league. But their offense is so inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get from your quarterback week to week. You don't know what you're getting from your play caller week to week. So I think that the Jets game tells a story. just based on great defense, inconsistent offense, which keeps you in games you probably shouldn't be in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I picked Jets definitely. I picked it more so because the offense couldn't compete against a terrible defense. And then the defense, again, yes, looked great in that game. And that I thought was a great indicator of where this defense could be at the end of the season. We're only a couple weeks in, or I guess, 6 weeks in now, but you're looking great defensively, and that game proved it. But a few people had some comments. At Touchdown Bo Nick said, and I love this comment so much, our offense only played good in the fourth quarter of the Eagles game. Our offense only played good in the first quarter of the Jets game. Both games reflect who they are really, which is an inconsistent offense that lacks teeth. We aren't scaring anybody. I love that quote so much, and it's rare to see somebody whose name is Touchdown Bo Nix, his profile picture is a picture of Bo Nix, be so honest about the Broncos. He is being very honest and clear that this team is inconsistent. And yeah, they lack teeth. They can't keep things going for a full fourth quarter or for a full 4 quarters. That's a tongue twister right there. But moving forward into the season, you aren't going to be able to win if you're only playing good in 1 quarter of every game. So I definitely love that comment right there. Another comment, Jets looked like the other 4 games, but worse. We don't have good players at wide receiver besides Cortland. Bo's deep ball accuracy is brutal, and we're wasting an elite defense. That's from James Smith at You Can't. That's on YouTube as well. I like that one. And Trent, we were talking about this before the show went live. They're talking about wide receiver, and Treylon Burks just signed to the Commanders. Are the Broncos missing a wide receiver here?
I don't know if it's necessarily missing a wide receiver more so than they're just not utilizing their talent more. We've seen them really put an emphasis on getting Mims and Franklin the ball in separate games. And then there's games like the Jets where they just simply don't do it. So I think that they have the talent. I don't think Treylon Burks would have moved the needle enough. And that doesn't seem like they're going to go out and trade for like a Chris Olave or something who's been on the trade block recently from the Saints. So I think and I don't think that this is a top wide receiver room in the league by any means, but there's good players. You just have to utilize them correctly, and they're failing to do that on a consistent basis.
100%. I definitely agree with you there. And then last one, Broncos Maniac 88, one of our top commenters on Twitter. I love this. I honestly don't think either. I judge by losses. That's very fair. A win is a win, but I've said it multiple times. Not all wins are created equal, and the Eagles and Jets game, those victories could not be further apart. I get what you're saying, judging by losses, but you got to judge by some wins too. And if we're looking at that Jets game compared to the Eagles game, 2 very different stories, and 2 stories that don't make me feel comfortable in any way. But I love talking Broncos. I'm very excited for this game coming up. But you know what I also love talking about? The Denver Nuggets. They're back in action next week, and they're playing their final preseason game tonight against a familiar foe in the Oklahoma City Thunder. The preseason in the NBA, really do believe is the most important preseason out of any sport. You could talk about the, football, NFL preseason, NHL preseason, not existent really. But the NBA preseason, especially for a team like the Nuggets right now, they're playing a lot of minutes with the starting unit out there, and they're getting all of these big acquisitions that they got in the offseason out on the court together in a real ref or officiated matchup for the first time this season. We're looking at players like Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown back in action. These guys, and of course Cam Johnson, how can I forget? These guys haven't had a real chance to play with the full 13 guys or however many they have out here in the preseason for this offseason. They haven't had that chance. Now they're getting a chance, and they've been playing very, very well. They've started the preseason 3-1, and so have the OKC Thunder, who is their matchup tonight. What do you expect before we get deeper into it? What do you have the final score being? Do you have the Nuggets winning in their final preseason matchup or not?
These preseason games are weird to judge because the starters have only been playing the first half. I think it's going to be a winning at halftime, call it like a 64-59. And then I think that OKC is going to flip the script when you get more of the bench guys out there.
Deep.
They have a really deep team, and those Nuggets bench guys still haven't quite shown in these preseason games that they're ready to step into a role. I'm talking about like the deep bench guys, like the Hunter Tyson, Spencer Jones, those kind of guys. So I think Nuggets win it at halftime. Starters come out. OKC takes over, and they end up with the win at the final. But this Nuggets team, they've been playing solid. Like you said, 3-1 this preseason. The starting five in 2 of these games has played phenomenal. Their last game against the Bulls, Aaron Gordon's a plus 32 in 22 minutes. Jokic plus 24. Christian Brown plus 21. Jamal had 30 points, 9 for 18 from the field. You said preseason is important. I think it's the most important for Jamal Murray.
100%.
We have not seen a fast start from him really in his whole career, I'd say. And I think that's why he still hasn't gotten the All-Star nod, because he doesn't really pick it up till December, January-ish, when it's too late for those votes. So if he can get some momentum and he can be playing like himself right out the gate next week, I think that could easily result in this team hitting the win over at 53.5, kind of getting up into the 57, 58 wins this season. I think it could get him an All-Star, but I think it's super important for Jamal Murray. He looked great the other night. He had a one-legged three-pointer the other night.
To the side. It was like a sidestep.
Yeah, he looks like he's having fun out there. He looks like he's in a good rhythm. So really looking forward to tonight's game to kind of see, last preseason game starters probably going to play a little more than they have in the past, and you get your biggest test against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if you want to take anything from a preseason game, tonight is the night to do so. Mm-hmm. And hopefully if they can get a win, that could really be like, hey, like we're looking good. I know it's early, but defending champs, take them down, and let's get the season rolling at Golden State next week.
Yeah. Well, I agree with what you said about the All-Star nod, but I don't think it's going to be Jamal Murray. I think that this will be the first year that the Broncos have, or the Nuggets have 2 All-Stars on their team, and it's going to be Nikola Jokic, of course, and Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is being plugged in to a system where he can succeed right away, and we're forgetting that this guy went to the finals with the Suns only a couple of years ago. He knows what it's like to win. Now, sure, he ended up losing in the finals, but he's played important roles on most teams that he's been a part of. The Suns, of course, was a great big stretch 4 kind of player there, and then goes to the Nets and is basically the best player on the Nets post KD era. So watching him come to a team where he could succeed with Nikola Jokic, he could immediately be an all-star selection this year. And I've talked about the effect that Nikola Jokic has. It's very similar to those of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in the NFL. Those guys have the ability to rise the tide and raise all ships. They make every player around them look so much better than they would away from them. Sure, you look at Tyreek Hill. He's on the Dolphins. He's had some pretty productive seasons, but nothing like when he was playing with Patrick Mahomes. There are players that have been around the league and they come to play for Kansas City and they immediately play like Super Bowl contenders because of these guys, the wide receivers around him, who look better. And that's just a comparison to the NFL. Nikola Jokic does the same thing with the players that he brings into the team. Bruce Brown, before he came to the Nuggets, was kind of who is this guy? Not really that big of a name. He comes to the Nuggets, immediately becomes a fan favorite because of his production value. Aaron Gordon was on the downhill slope of his career with the Orlando Magic, comes to the Nuggets, completely revitalizes himself, and now is probably going to have his jersey hung in the rafters of Ball Arena. Watching what Cam Johnson has been able to do with the Suns and the Nets, and now he's coming to a team where they can boost him even more. Yeah, he's going to be an all-star this year. That's my prediction for the season. I definitely have them going over that win over. I've got them as a 60-win team. 60-22 is where I've got them at. I'm very excited to see, but that's just my thoughts on Cam Johnson. There's another player in the starting unit who's got a lot of conversation going on about him too, because on Monday, the Nuggets have to make a decision about Christian Brown's extension, and he is looking to be a very rich man after he gets this paper signed. What do we say? When do you think it's going to happen? Are we going to get him signed this weekend? Are we going to get him signed on Monday at the deadline? Or could it happen to now? I'm actually checking my phone to make sure it didn't happen while we're talking.
You have to sign Christian Brown. You cannot let him go. He's shown that he's important. He's shown that he's able to improve when called upon by stepping into the starting lineup for KCP last year. You look at who's going to be available as a 2-guard in free agency next offseason. Tell me who is going to be able to play the defense that Christian Brown plays, cut off the ball and make himself open for Nikola Jokic. Remember, he shot almost 40% from three last year. I know that the playoffs weren't great, and that's the most important time, and you need your guys to step up, and he didn't exactly do so. He was really good in the regular season for him. He's important to this unit. You have to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the price tag might be a little steep for that one. You know, I've seen 4 years, 120 million. I've seen 5 years, 140. I've seen 5 years, 150. You got to do it. You can't. That's the bottom line. You have to do it. And I think another extension is due on Monday. Payton Watson. I don't think that that's going to get done. You know,
really,
with all these guys that they're bringing in, I just don't see him having a role on this team. And he hasn't improved as a 3-point shooter. He hasn't improved as a finisher. How many
from what we've seen, we haven't seen him in the regular season this year, so it could be totally different.
But how many layups did he miss in the playoffs last year? It was bad. It was really bad. And yes, the blocks are electric. Yes, he's playing some good defense. He's still a little lighter for his height. Mm-hmm. He still gets bullied around a little bit by some bigger guys. So I don't think that they're going to extend Watson. Both of those guys are set to become restricted free agents. So if they get an offer from another team, the Nuggets can match that offer sheet to bring him back. Mm-hmm. Which I could see them easily doing that for Payton Watson. And if some team overpays him and be like, hey, you guys go have fun with him. We're not going to overpay for him. So I don't think a Watson deal gets done, but Brown, whether it's $25 million a year, whether it's $30 million a year, you have to get that done. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to get him locked in, and then you could still have Jokic, Murray, Gordon, and Brown as a core four locked in. We'll see what a Cam Johnson deal looks like next offseason. But, yeah, CB is important. You need him on this team. You need him to win. You need him to play defense.
100%.
You need him to sign that contract.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Now, with the Payton Watson stuff, I doubt that they're going to give him a contract extension before the season starts. But I would be appalled if they don't match an offer next summer. He brings a sort of energy that can be trained. You know, you can grow from where Payton Watson is, and Aaron Gordon's only getting older. And I have no doubt in my mind that the day that Aaron Gordon retires, Payton Watson will be able to seamlessly plug in to that same exact role, except he'll be even better because he's been grown by the Nuggets. You know, he's been grown here in Mile High. So he will be able to step into a position that Aaron Gordon has more seamlessly than Aaron Gordon was able to when he was brought in at the trade deadline a couple of years ago. I would be shocked if he doesn't stay on this team for a lot longer, but if there is a large price tag brought to him, which I doubt there will be looking around the league. I mean, who really needs a shot blocking four to sit on their bench? Maybe again, like a team like the Brooklyn Nets. I'm being so honest. Maybe a team like the Brooklyn Nets or even the Trailblazers might want to take a look at him, but I don't see any team throwing or backing up a Brinks truck to get Payton Watson. Hopefully the Nuggets can keep him. That would be huge. But tonight's it. Tonight is the last night of the preseason. And then next week, we got a lot to talk about because they have their season opener on Thursday. I can't wait. I'm actually so excited. Nuggets basketball is by far my favorite thing to watch just on the TV. I love watching the Broncos, love watching the Avs. Not going to talk about the Rockies, but when the Nuggets are on TV, I can't turn away. Gotta love it. I'm so excited to start the season. Been a lot of fun. We didn't get to our score predictions for the Broncos. So before we're done here today, what do you have your final score for the Broncos game on Sunday?
16-13 victory. I think that the offense gets stuck in the mud. I think that the defense, as they always do, the defense will do enough to make life a lot easier on the offense. I just think that they're going to get, like I said, stuck in the mud. 16-13, 3 field goals and a touchdown, but it'll be enough to get the win.
Yep. I like that. I've got 24-20. Broncos get the win, and they get a sack on the last drive of the game for the Giants. The Giants had the ball, give a chance to run down the field, looking like a Jackson Dart legacy game, but the Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper power couple crashed in the box so hard and finish it off for the game. So that's where I've got it. That's what I've got. If you got it, Let us know in the comments what you think the final score would be. I'd love to see all your guys' comments. But that'll do it for today's episode of From the Nosebleeds. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back with you guys again on Monday, of course, recapping this Broncos game. Can they get it done against the Giants and avoid the trap game? We'll be back on Monday to talk about it. But until then, y'all have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and we will see you all later. Bye, y'all.